You want to buy your first camera, but you have no clue where to frickin' start. Well, this is where Tight Shirt Terry Warfield comes to save the day. Let's go. What's up, y'all? Back for another video. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. Remember to be thankful for your freaking life today because you did not have to have that. Let's get on with the meat and potatoes by saying this first. All of these cameras that have come out probably within the last 10 years or so are more than good enough for 99% of beginners, to be honest with you. Technology right now is so freaking good. All of these cameras are amazing. What's most important is you find a camera that fits within your budget and your needs and refine your skill set first. It doesn't matter what type of camera you buy. If you don't have a skill set, it doesn't matter. I could give you the most expensive camera available right now. Because you have no clue what to do with it, you'll get trash out of that camera. Conversely, somebody who knows what they're doing with cameras can take the cheapest gear and make it look freaking phenomenal. So I wanted to throw that out there first because some of y'all are gonna get caught up in the, oh my God, I need to buy the latest and greatest, most expensive stuff. And you just don't unless you want to. Now, the first thing you'll need to consider is how much money am I willing to spend? Like, you're gonna have to invest some money if this is something that you wanna take serious. I mean, just don't buy it if you're not gonna take it serious. And I'll usually tell beginners like, yo, I would probably start with, like, if you can, $1,500. Even if you can't do that right now, save up some money, get at least $1,500 to $2,000 to start. Now, depending on where you choose to go after we go through all of these things, you might find out I didn't need that much money or I needed more money than that. But you know, I would like to start there as a base. Now, I also don't want y'all to be discouraged or scared of buying used gear. Before I got to this point and camera companies were sending me stuff, I used to buy used gear all the time. There's nothing wrong with buying used gear. I'm gonna make a whole video on this, but it's just like buying used anything else. Do your due diligence, you know, make sure that the stuff is in good condition, that the person took care of it, and then save you some money, okay? Now, the next consideration is, what do you want to do with this camera, right? Are you looking for just like a vlogging camera or maybe an action camera because you like to go skiing or swimming? Do you want to do portrait photography, sports photography, astrophotography? Do you want to make cinema films? Like, do you want to get into cinema stuff? Like, these are all things that you need to be considered. Now, there's another part to this question, right? And this one's a little bit more challenging to figure out, but I know what you might think you want to do right now. But think about, okay, after I get this camera and I start to go through, let's just say, maternity photography, maybe that's what you want to get into. Are my wants going to change in 6 months? Am I going to want to start shooting video? You know, like, what is my trajectory? That is something that you really need to think about, because these decisions right here, just like an RPG video game, are going to dictate your course going through this. Now that you've thought about those things, we need to talk about the different types of cameras. So you have action cameras like GoPros and stuff like that. Those usually go up to around like $400 to $500. Then you have the vlogging cameras. Those are usually like maybe $600 to $1,000, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. Then you have your hybrid cameras, which are good at photo and video, and different hybrid cameras are, you know, weighted one way or another. So like, it might be a hybrid camera like the ZVE one that I'm using right now that can take photos, but it's actually a really more powerful video camera than it is a photography camera, and so on and so forth. So those usually range between, like, you know, $1,000 up to like $7,000, and then you got cinema cameras, which usually go from like that up into like, you know, 6 figures sometimes, depending on the camera that you get. So before we move on, if you like this video so far, I noticed that a whole lot of y'all come back and watch my videos, but you don't subscribe. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn on notification bell so that you get notified when new videos go up. Now that you have that figured out, the other thing you need to consider if you chose to go with like a hybrid camera is, do I need a crop sensor or a full frame sensor, right? And I'm probably talking nonsense to you right now. Let me get a camera to show you. So this right here is a full frame 35mm equivalent sensor. So full frame sensors are typically good for a few different reasons. Because the sensor is so big in them, typically they have really good dynamic range, meaning when you're looking at a scene, they can capture the shadows, the highlights, everything in between, and the colors really well. It doesn't have to like pick one or the other. They're really good in low light. Typically they offer blurrier backgrounds for said lens. I'm trying not to get super techie right now, but they also come with usually increased cost. The lenses are bigger, the cameras are more expensive and more robust. I would say if you could start with a full frame camera, you should start with one. That way you never have to worry about it. Now, there's nothing wrong with crop sensor cameras either. So a crop sensor camera, is also sometimes called Super 35, and it's only a small portion of this sensor right here. Now, I don't want y'all to think about APS-C or crop sensor as a bad thing, because some of your favorite feature films were shot with cameras that have Super 35 sensors in them. So it's not a bad thing, but they do have distinct advantages and disadvantages. I already gave you some for full frame. Well, for APS-C cameras, typically because the sensor is smaller, that means that the lenses are also smaller and also cheaper. Also, because the sensor is smaller, let's just say this was a crop sensor lens. If I were to put this on a full frame camera, I could get more range because it's only focusing in on a smaller part of that sensor. Now, smaller cameras do typically have worse dynamic range and stuff like that, although there are exceptions, like the Sony FX30 is fantastic. But just as a rule of thumb, smaller cameras with the APS-C sensors in them do typically offer lower cost, more reach, things like that. Typically they're more accessible and they are smaller. However, full frame cameras are starting to get really small also. Now the next thing that you'll need to consider is resolutions and megapixels. Now resolutions, I mean, at this point, pretty much anything that can shoot 4K is fine. 4K is typically enough to anything that you want to produce. It gives you a lot of room to be able to recompose. It's a lot of detail. Also, you'll want to consider, am I going to want to slow any of my video footage down? If that's the case, then I need to find a camera that at least shoots 60 frames a second. When it comes to photography, however, the story is not the same. So as an example, like my ZV-E1 is only 12 megapixels, while my Sony a7R5 is 61 megapixels. So it really depends on what your needs are going to be and the type of photography that you're going to do. Now, do you need 61 megapixels? No, it's just helpful if you do want to recompose afterwards. I mean, it's not like people before we had these high resolution cameras weren't using 10 megapixel and 12 megapixel cameras to do weddings and sports and all that stuff. So it's for sure possible, but I think 24 to 36 megapixels is a real good sweet spot for photography without having to spend too much money and not have to deal with crazy big file sizes and stuff like that. So you need to think about resolutions and how many megapixels do I need? And you can always circle back on this once you kind of go down the list of these things, because you'll find that, you know, depending on how much money you got to spend might dictate some of this stuff. Now, the next thing that you're going to need to consider is freaking ecosystem. So Terry, what are you talking about? So let's just say you started off with like a Sony camera, right? You started off with an APS-C camera, so one of those crop sensor cameras that we talked about, and after a year and a half you decide, you know what, I'm ready to move up to full frame. Well, on some camera systems that means you have to buy different lenses. Well, on Sony, you can use those lenses across any cameras that they offer interchangeably, albeit some of them have caveats, but you can use those lenses on every camera that they offer. Another example is Sony makes microphones that don't require wires. You just plug them into the hot shoe and it does everything for you. You don't need batteries, wires, nothing like that. They're the only manufacturer so far that offers those. Companies like DJI with the Osmo Pocket 3 and the Action 5 have wireless microphones, and that works with their ecosystem. So these are things that you need to think about. If I decide to buy a new camera, will my previous accessories work with my new camera, like microphones and all of those things? So I recommend thinking about all of that stuff. In addition, connectivity, you know, how well does the app work for the camera? If I want to control it with my phone, how do I get the images off my phone? Can I color grade them like on Lumix cameras in the camera? You know, all of these things need to be considered. There's no right or wrong answer here. It's really finding the one that has the ecosystem that works the best for you. Now, once you got all that information, I want you to start digging. So as an example, you found that, hey, I got $1,500 to spend. I want a APS-C camera that can shoot up to 4K 30 and has 24 megapixels. We'll take that, plug it into Google, and you'll be surprised how much information it brings back. Do this and try to find 3 cameras, and then take those 3 cameras and then just go on a deep dive. Go on YouTube, go on Reddit, you know, go down the rabbit hole on all of these cameras and find out what people think about them. You know, are they holding their value? Are they good cameras? Are they reliable? And then once you have that information, then head to your local camera store or Best Buy or whatever, so that you could actually touch the camera and hold the camera and see what it feels like, because, you know, you gotta pick up a camera that is going to inspire you to want to use it. And you might love all of this stuff, but then you go to Best Buy and figure out, I hate the way that this camera feels in my hands. Now, I'm not saying that should be an end-all be-all, because, you know, they do make cages and other accessories that make cameras, you know, when it comes to the ergonomics, better. But I just think it's the best, if you can, to go try to get one in your hand so that you can see what it feels like and what the buttons feel like and what the operation feels like. Once you do that, and you finally decide on a potential camera, go back through this entire list again and refine it. You know, you might find that after I thought about all of this, that maybe I don't need this anymore, or maybe I need this also, and this is going to help you refine how much budget you need. Maybe you found out that I don't need to spend that much money, or I do need to spend more money. All of these things will help you choose a camera. Now, here's a little plug. If you still need more help than this, I do offer coaching sessions. So I do 30, 60, and 90 minutes. I'll leave a link down below. If you need to ask me more questions, questions or you just want to pick my brain on this stuff, I'll be happy to help you out. I'll give you as much freaking information as I can. Anyways, I tried to give you as much information as possible, as quickly as I could as possible. I'm sure I left out some stuff, but I think this is a good baseline to start with when you want to choose a new camera. And once you choose another camera, the only problem is now you got to pick out lenses. If you chose like an interchangeable lens, you know, hybrid camera, you got to get other accessories like microphones and all that stuff, and I'll be happy to make more of these videos if y'all like them. So let me know down in the comment section if this video was helpful. And I think that's it. So before we wrap this video up, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button and like it if you like this video. I would love to see y'all back on the channel. I got some videos coming up at the end of this video that will be super helpful for you. And until next time, I'm out of here. Tight shirt Terry Warfield. Piece of chicken grease. I'm out, y'all. Much love. Peace.